Hello and welcome back to the Peak Endurance podcast after a 5 week hiatus
Yes.
minimum. So, I'm Isabel Tate, your hostess with the mostest.
And
Next to me is
Ron Tate.
when I let him talk
Yes, the second host
with the most,
with the most.
but you're going to say the host with the least.
Yeah, host with the least.
Yes,
And we are the Peak Endurance podcast.
we are indeed, and we are our dulcet tones coming into your ears. Many weeks.
Yes, we've had a bit of a break.
Honestly, we had good intentions. It was like, we're going to do the podcast. Oh, that's really smeary. We're going to do the podcast while I'm in Canada. Oh, yeah, absolutely, every week. Excuse me if you're watching on YouTube, but that's really the screen is a little bit grotty. Yeah, intentions.
No,
the time difference was not conducive.
no, it wasn't. It was just a very, very hard thing to work around.
Yeah, it was shit, basically. So
it
just wasn't going to happen.
No.
And it didn't,
And
really.
it didn't. No, it didn't. So we're back. We're well rested.
Are we?
Yeah.
We're rested from doing the podcast. I'm not rested from life. Actually, I'm starting to feel a bit better today.
So you got back
last week on Wednesday.
Last week on Wednesday, which is five days ago.
But I didn't have jet lag because I got some awesome stuff. We'll go through it, in chronological order, shall we? So basically, I left, and then I was in Canada, and then I came home. Yeah. Anyway, end of podcast. So
thanks for listening.
Yes, I went to Canada, and to be honest, I'd been pretty stressed beforehand, just getting everything done. And I was not only trying to get everything done on my business, but I was trying to work heaps at school because money, hello, I needed it. And I was totally run down, basically. What I get when I get run down is the inside of my mouth. I know this is really rather gross, but it swells up. The gums in the roof of my mouth all swells up. And I was having that, and I was just absolutely shattered on all my runs. They felt shit. I felt shit. It hurt. All my runs kind of hurt. Everything was horrible. And then I was on the plane, and I was in this I was on an aisle seat, which I prefer because I want leg room, but I'd changed seats, so I had 3 seats to myself, but some
person,
for want of a better name, had plonked himself in my row of 3 seats. So I didn't get to lie down, and I didn't have a neck rest, and I didn't have an eye mask. So everybody's TV screens were flickering, and I could see it through my very thin eyelids, and I didn't get any sleep, and it was horrible, and I was so miserable. And I got to Canada, Calgary, and I just felt like a bag of shit, quite frankly, from all the stress of, it's stressful getting ready to leave and making sure you're organized and trying to get everything done, and failing. And ever since I've had glandular fever and chronic fatigue many years ago, although it was many years ago, stress is one of those things that really runs me down and gives me those chronic fatigue feelings again, which I had. And then I went to this Airbnb. Oh, my God. So I hadn't slept at all on the plane. So basically 2 days without sleep. Then I go to bed that first night thinking, oh, my God, I'm going to sleep like a baby because I'm so exhausted. No, I was in a basement, and the guy above thought it'd be a grand idea when the first night he's got this tenant down below to have a fucking party of something with his daughter over, and he's drinking, and they're stomping around doing a barn dance, I'm sure. And I was calling you, remember?
Yes.
First of all, I was messaging you, and then you ended up calling me, and I was crying.
Yes.
And so I sent him a message, but he didn't read it. So I ended up having to put something decent on. And I went up and knocked on his bloody door and said, can you be quiet? It's 2 a.m. And he's like, he had a full glass of wine. So there was no chance of him going to bed soon. No. And he's like, oh, can you hear me? Yeah, I'm directly under you. What do you think, you moron? Like literally directly under him, my bed. Seriously. So, oh my God. So sorry. So we shut up, and I went down, and I finally got a couple hours sleep. Woke up, struggled through the day. Then I thought, oh my God, thank God, tonight I will sleep. But oh no, he had other ideas. He decided to watch television till 2 a.m. And unsurprisingly, I could hear that too. And I'm deaf in one ear, and I was lying on my good side. So my deaf ear was up, and I could still hear that fucking television. And not only that, but he liked to pace. Every night he liked to pace the floor. And so, of course, he's pacing and his television's going, and I was just like, and I got up and slammed the door at 2 a.m. because I was over it, and that's when the TV went off. Anyway, I messaged him the next day and said, look, basically, I can't stay here if this is what's going to happen. I said, that's 3 nights without sleep. I said, and I need my sleep to be able to work, to be able to run. And I'm a tenant here. You got to understand, I hear everything. So after that, he was a lot better. But, it was a bit of a stressful relationship after that, shall we say. We kind of avoided each other like the plague. And I just kind of felt cross with him for the entire 5-week stay, to be honest. I never actually got over it. And just hearing his voice would just send chills down my spine. So, yeah, that was not a good start, especially when I was already run down. So after that, every run just felt worse. Everything just, my body just hurt. And I was not a happy camper, was I?
No, you weren't. No, you weren't for those first couple of days. There was a few tears shed.
Oh, it was just awful. It was just awful.
Yeah.
Anyway, but in those couple of days, I saw my daughter, and she lent me her car, which was great. But it's been a while since I've driven on the other side of the road. Like, obviously, when I lived in Canada for a year, that's what I did. But I drove auto over there. Whereas my daughter has a manual. And let me assure you, it is weird changing gears with the other hand. I kept wanting to use because I used to drive a manual. I kept wanting to use my left hand to change gears, but of course I was just grabbing the car door handle.
Every time she went to change into second, she opened the door.
And my daughter had a list of 1 million
rules.
And I had to sign a contract. Especially that I wouldn't drive when tired, because she goes, I remember when you used to drive when you were tired and you'd be slapping your face to keep awake. I'm like, I was so exhausted because I was working full time with 2 little children, training with a husband that did nothing to help. And I was fucking tired 24/7. I remember driving the kids home from school, and we stopped at traffic lights on a hill in a manual, and I bloody fell asleep, and we started rolling backwards and it screamed. That's how exhausted I used to be. And we even had an exchange student with us, so I nearly took out everyone. But yeah, so yes, I used to get very tired, but she thinks I'm still like that. And no, I live with Ron, who does so much. I don't have to do like hardly anything. I just can focus on working and running, and and I don't have little kids, which, as much as I love them and I kind of would love to have them back being little again, I don't miss the work. But anyway, so that's fine. I understood where she was coming from. Like, that's what she remembered. And she was like, but whatever you do, you have to have caffeine. Because she also remembered every time I gave up caffeine is when I would crash the car. So one of the rules was I had to drink caffeine.
No giving up
caffeine whilst driving your car. So anyway.
So that persisted for about
2 weeks. And then she just kept at the last minute wanting her car, and I've organised to go do a run somewhere in the Rockies, and so I ended up hiring a car at considerable expense, over $2,000. I could have bought a car. But you know what? Peace of mind and freedom, because I didn't want to be stuck at that Airbnb.
Because the Airbnb was like in a well, not city, because it's not a city, but within,
it is a city. Calgary's a city,
but not in a city as in living in a high rise.
It's not like in Melbourne. It's not like a Melbourne city. It's a lot fewer population. I looked at the population with my daughter. We compared them, and Calgary's like way smaller.
It's probably like living in Geelong.
Yeah, Yeah, but that's a
For those
city.
in
Everyone in Geelong just got
Victoria,
offended.
Australia. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, it's a city.
It's a city. It's just not a big city.
It's not a city the size of Melbourne, but
Yeah.
it was living. I was 3K from downtown.
Yeah.
Right. So there weren't. I mean, they have a lot of urban trails, which are great, but even those took 15 minutes to drive to, and it was too far to run to.
Mm.
And I found running on the concrete was hurting. My bones were sore. Like,
yeah,
I just don't know. I just was not right. Like, I feel so much better now that I'm home. I just was really run down going into the trip, and then those 3 nights completely ruined me for pretty much the rest of the trip.
Yeah.
I only came good in the last week. Also, you have to remember Calgary is at 1,000 meters elevation, and it's a very dry environment. When I first moved to Calgary, I had to buy a humidifier to have in my room because I couldn't sleep. It was so dry, I could hardly breathe. I'm kind of used to that sort of aspect of Calgary now, so I don't have to bother with that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
and 1,000 meters elevation, like that's not much, like in scheme of things. But when you live at, I don't know.
Well, we live at about
60 meters.
No, I think we live close to 100 meters, like 80 meters or something.
I will tell you on my watch, it will tell me. But even so, it's still a big difference that your body has to get used to. 77 meters.
Oh, yeah.
So we were both wrong.
Yes. I did say 80, around 80.
Jeez.
But anyway, but also another thing to consider is, yes, you were living at 1,000 meters, but every time you ran into the hills,
I was up to 2,500, 3,000.
That's right. Running elevations higher than anything we have in this country.
That's right, exactly. And that was just like their local hill.
Yeah. So
not like McDanny at a grand total of 600 meters.
Don't need a lot of elevation training or altitude training for Mount Danny.
No, so I was regularly going up to 2,500, 3,000 meters, and it was. Don't get me wrong, the trip was great, and I loved catching up with my daughter, and we went, camping, and I caught up with awesome friends. Shout out to Fanny and Lourdes, and I had so much fun, and she said, Lourdes says she loves listening to us when she goes to the gym because, it's like having some friends with her that she's chatting with. And I said, that's how we like to do the pod, to make it feel like you've got a friend running with you or working out with you, chatting with you.
That's right.
And whinging in your ear, obviously. So it was great to catch up with friends and to go running, and caught up with the Calgary trail runners, and that was awesome.
So tell me about some of the trails you ran on. Some of the ones, some of your
obviously
favorites.
I went to Prairie because I love Prairie. Well, I love Prairie because it's close. It's a 45-minute drive, and it goes up to 2,200, 2,300 or something. It's about the height of Cozzy, our highest mountain. And I love doing that, and it's fun because it's kind of like doing at the 1,000 steps, Lyrebird, not as many people, but people who go, oh, you're doing reps, and they'll chat with you and all that sort of stuff. So it's a bit of fun in that regard. And you don't really need to bother with bear spray, thank God, because there's so many bloody people and they all bring their dogs. That's the beauty of, in Canada, they're allowed to take their dogs and they don't have to be on a leash. And, it's so much nicer, and I love patting the dogs and talking to people. I mean, obviously it's a bit different because they don't have little animals like we do that could get eaten by dogs. But anyway, so I went there. I went to Galatea Lakes with Calgary Trail Runners, which was absolutely stunning. Went and did Mount Allen with Fanny. We also did Grizzly Peak, but Mount Allen was better. Even it was like all these different, we were going through pine forests, and then when boulders, boulder fields, and then these rocky, it was just awesome, and that's the beauty of it. And, did a couple of those. I didn't do a heap because, and what else? Yeah, because it just not only didn't have the time, but, I was just not feeling 100%. I was exhausted and I was struggling. I was going to be doing North Over Ridge, which is 35 Ks, but yeah, 35 Ks in the Rockies on shale and all that. It would have taken, I think it took them about 8 to 10 hours to do. I was going to do it 2 days before I left. I just can't do that again when I'm so exhausted. And so I didn't do it. I just went out to Kananaskis near Prairie, and I did, and I was also a little bit over the hiking. I love hiking, but there comes a point where I just want to freaking run.
Yeah. And that's the thing, when you're talking about doing trail runs in the Rockies,
you're hiking.
There's a lot of hiking involved.
And you're hiking up, and running down isn't super duper fast because, it's a bit sketchy. And my knee has really only gotten better in the last week. My knee was really giving me grief on the downhills, and if I slid, it would, the freaking pain, you have no idea. So that dodgy knee that I had from before the trip is oh my God, so much better. But it got better during the trip. And I was finding the hiking, was hurting it a bit, so, God, I sound like such a whinger. But it was a really tough trip for me. It was really tough, and I don't know why. And I think it was just because I was run down. And then, of course, in that, I went to Revelstoke, which is a 4.5-hour drive through a mountain pass to get there, which it's a tough drive, kind of white knuckle drive. And I'm driving on the wrong side of the road for me. So it's a little bit more stressful, and, you come, it was just, you're coming down these steep ravines, and you're just like, fuck, I hope the brake, because it's, it's a high car. I know. I'm kind of glad almost that I didn't have Elizabeth's car, because her brakes probably aren't as good as a high car. And then I ended up in this spot. Oh my God, I was meant to be doing a Zoom with a client, and instead the trip took me 6.5 hours to get to Revi. And we were sitting just in this traffic, just sitting there. And we'd sit there for half an hour, and then we'd move 300 meters, sit there for another half an hour. Anyway, I'm like, what the hell's going on? Construction's, I've been stuck in construction in that mountain pass before when I used to live there, when I was traveling places, but never like this. And one of the girls I met at the race, she was further behind me. She was stuck for longer because she came in later. She said cars were running out of petrol, and people were walking around going, oh my God, we need help, we've run out of petrol. Anyway, it turns out that somebody had died further on from Revelstoke going to Sycamus. Some truck driver drove off one of the bridges, coming down one of those ravines, drove off the bridge. And, people were picking on, saying, oh, it's just a shitty truck driver. But supposedly the car, from what this woman told me, who told me about it, said, someone actually veered towards him, and he was trying to avoid an accident, and it was not his fault at all. But even if it was, like, seriously, someone died. Jesus Christ. So I felt really bad that I was being a whinger. But, there I was stuck for an hour and a half in this traffic and no cell service. So I couldn't, there was literally nothing. You just had to let it go, which I'm really good at.
Yeah, you are so good at that.
Oh my God, it's like my superpower. I'm not. When I got there, we spoke, and I was crying again.
That's right, you were.
The stress, just the stress. I just find those kind of driving trips stressful, because I'm not used to driving on that side of the road. Like, I just find it incredibly stressful. And, I'm in a foreign country. I don't know what to do. I've got no mobile service. I'm on my own. I'm hungry.
That was probably the worst part.
Well, I think it was a bag of carrots, and I was real fucking sick of carrots. I tell you. So, I was just about ready to drink out of puddles. I was running out of water. Anyway, but yeah, I finally got there. And then, of course, the next day I've got a race. But it was great, because I did this race, and the first day was a lot of climbing. It was 30 odd K, but all these people I knew, and I'd come into an aid station, I just hear, oh, hi, Isobel. And, it was so lovely, and just reminds me of why I loved living in Canada, and how lucky I am to have made some awesome friends over there, and so that was the first day.
And that was a hot day, or
it was hot. It was like 27 degrees or something, and once again going up quite high. But of course I've got no colour, as you can see, because I just don't get colour in Canada. I just don't. The sun isn't hot enough to burn my skin. I need quite a lot of Australian sun to get a tan. Um, anyway, then the next day, woo,
Yeah. So the next day was even hotter.
yeah, not.
No.
Oh my God. So it was, so the first day I just took a windbreaker. You didn't really have mandatory kit because, we're not Australia when we're in Canada. And so, but they just said windbreaker and, that sort of thing. But I knew it was going to rain at some point. It was going to be 15, which I thought I won't need a raincoat, but I'll take it just in case.
This is on the second day.
Yeah, the second day. So I took my proper seam sealed raincoat and I put in gloves and a buff, which I didn't end up using. But oh my God, it fucking snowed. And it was so cold. And it had all this scrambling in it, which quite frankly I found very easy. But people were crying and turning back and even I hate to say it, I don't want to sound sexist, but even men, which I would expect men to be a little bit braver than me, or and is that a sexist comment? I don't know. Stereotype, yeah. But I kind of think that men, because of testosterone, have more bravery. So I'm not dissing women and I'm not dissing men. That's just historically, men are braver. And because also we have evolved as women to be more cautious because we are the bearer of children and to look after children. And I'm talking evolution. I'm not talking stereotypes here. That's just evolution. So I just don't want to offend anyone. Far right. Like seriously. Anyway, if you're offended, you can just, unsubscribe. And it's like the light just changed, didn't it? It's gone yellow. Suddenly we have jaundice.
Yes.
Maybe from me banging the table, I changed the light. Yeah.
No.
So anyway.
So it snowed and it was
snowed, and then there was this pass where because someone once had run down this pass, it's just sloppy, mud and shit, but there's rocks around, in the Rockies or wherever. There's a lot of shaly stuff. And one year, I think about 2 years ago, someone ran down it and kicked a rock and it hit someone and broke their collarbone. So no, you only lie down at one at a time with a guy there guiding. And I felt sorry for him because he had to stand there in that snow like the entire freaking day. Putting up with people going, oh, and not knowing how to grab the rope, including me, because I was watching. I was like, oh, yeah, I know how to grab the rope. And then I did it. And he's like, no, put your hands. And I'm like, shut up. What a moron am I? Even when I know what to do. Anyway, I blame the cold. But, thank God I put my raincoat on. I put my gloves on because we were waiting in the snow for like an hour and 15 minutes, just standing there in the wind and the rain and the snow flurries. And, it was hideous. It was... by the time I got moving again, and then we had it was called the Montana Bowl, so then we went up and it was really steep and I was just feeling because I was so cold and it was quite shaly and slippy and grassy and rocks and shit and you could barely see where the flags are and I'm like, where am I going, and there's just these little flags stuck in the ground. And I came across this poor guy. He may have been a tad overweight. I didn't think he was that big but he said, oh, I can't get up here. And I'm like, come on, you can do it. I'm too heavy. I'm too big, blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking, to me, he looked, fine. But obviously, and I said, just follow me, just, stick in my footprints kind of thing. Like good King Wenceslas. and so he did. He followed after me. He's like, oh my God, I can do it. I'm doing it. And I went, good, and I just kept going. Then he stopped again, obviously. And another girl behind me said she came across him and he was sitting there quite upset. Oh, I can't. And she was like, what? She was like, I don't understand why he couldn't do it. And I do understand. You get this. He was cold, probably like me, and it makes you emotional when you get cold. And he was feeling negative because that's also what happens when you get cold and you're low on carbs and shit. And he was just upset and he just needed, but anyway, I wished he had followed me. But anyway, so I kept going and obviously I kept going, but I'd lost my mojo. I was cold to the bones. Once, I got down the mountain and finished, went back to my room, had a hot shower, dressed in warm clothes, did some work. then went back up the mountain because each night we'd have to go back up the gondola, and I was still cold. Sitting there at dinner, and everyone else had warmed up, but I've got all these 500 layers on, still freezing.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, like the first day I was the third 50-year-old woman, the second day I was the third 50-year-old woman, but by the next day I just used up all my energy, and I was just, you know, making up numbers on the last day. And also, of course, I got my period on the last day, so which was also why I felt kind of crappy on the 2 days before the race. But yes, in the race I got my period. And what was even worse was at the start of the race, which I didn't have it yet then, but there were no toilets. Someone had forgotten to the portaloos, so we got to the start of the start line.
To get to the start line on the third day, you had to get bussed. Yeah,
and then there were no toilets. And that was great. So we started, and I had to go in the bushes somewhere.
And I mean, you think, oh, no toilets, just go in the bushes, but that's easy for guys to do.
Easy for guys,
not so easy for women.
Not so easy for us, and not so easy, but it's embarrassing. Like women feel uncomfortable doing that because we've got to kind of pull everything off.
Yeah,
you know, it's and it's just, you feel, it's not a nice feeling. So anyway, so that was a bit of a bummer. I mean, it was an awesomely organized event and loved it, and it was a fantastic event. That was just
they had intended
to
have them.
I think someone was meant to do it and someone didn't do it, and they were bussing them in as we spoke, like they were like shared, obviously, but it was just one of those things, you know, like I don't, you know, these are just human beings doing, you know, I know some people get shitty if races aren't 100% perfect, but at the end of the day, they're just people. People make mistakes, and you just roll with the punches, and I did. It was fine. It just was a bit of a pain in the butt. But so I was feeling pretty ordinary, and then of course by the time I finished, when, you know, I get a lot of pain with my period, so I was in a fair bit of pain and just pretty miserable.
Happy to be finished.
And then, of course, you know, we went out for dinner that night because that was part of it, which was great. But then by the next, and then I had to drive home, white knuckle all the way home. And then by the Tuesday, I had a cold sore and was totally run down and feeling like a bag of shit again.
Just in time to get on the plane to fly home.
Well, I just had over a week, but I was just like, you know,
oh, that's right.
it was coughing up like, you know, you need to pay attention to your boogers and your, you know, like phlegm, that's the word. You know, green means you've got an infection, brown means you're getting over the infection, and yellow means it's nearly gone. And so I was sort of at the brown stage of coughing up and and blowing my nose. And so, you know, I had obviously had an infection of some description. And but you know, my dad taught me all that about my infections, because I remember asking him, why is it that color? Anyway, so so I just basically think I was sick the entire time I was on that trip, because now I feel great. I mean, if you're watching the video, you can still see the scar from the red from the cold sore.
It's just a leftover.
Yeah, but I do get cold sores when I get run down. And so so it was a hard trip, and it was hard being away from you.
Oh.
And Lourdes did say, oh, you should do a podcast talking about what it was like, you know, running apart and that sort of stuff. And it was hard. Like we're used to running together every weekend. It was hard running on my own. Like when I went and did the powder face loop on my own, I kept thinking, oh, you'd love these trails. And the next day I went out to Bragg Creek and did a 15K loop there, and I was feeling pretty rooted then too. But I got it done because I just wanted to, you know, it was my last day in Canada. And I was just thinking how much you would have loved it all, and you know.
Yeah, and I mean, my training went downhill. I didn't. I mean, but
your consumption of junk food went uphill.
Yes, I didn't get into the trails very often. I just do most of my runs on.
And I suggested that maybe, you know, you run to locations and catch a train home. So you did. So I did that.
Did that a couple of times. Ran to the city and caught the train home, and ran halfway to the city and caught the train home, and but I just, because, you know, going out to the trails takes time, or not time to get there because we live like pretty close. But just that it makes a longer run, you know, or the run take longer.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't be bothered putting in the time. Like I'd lost my motivation to get out because my motivation was in Canada.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And look, it was hard for me too. I used to just imagine that you were with me because people, you have to remember, we've been together, what, 4 and a bit years?
Yeah.
And in that 4 and a bit years, we'd only been apart for 2 nights.
That's right. Yeah.
When I'd crewed Nikki for Coast to Cozzy. And other than that, from the pretty much the day we met, we've been together every single day. Like literally, right. Well, not from the day we met, but maybe a week after we met.
Yeah.
Been together every single day. Right. So it was weird. Yeah. It wasn't just that I missed you, but it was weird. Like it was, it was.
Life was completely different.
Life was completely different. I was back to being on my own and being like single again in my place, and and it was sad. It was a bit sad for me.
Yeah, going to bed in a cold bed every night.
Yeah, and it was really hard. So
it was, yep, most definitely.
Yeah. So, and then of course I got back, and the plane on the way back was pretty much empty. The I don't know, what do you call them? The air hostess male one.
Yeah.
You don't say an air host. I don't know. What do you call them these days? I don't know.
No, steward.
Air steward. Yeah. Maybe, when I was in Calgary, and my friend Ori and I went out for dinner, and I said, "Oh, there's the waitress," and he goes, "No, we don't call them waiters or waitresses. We call them servers." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, sorry." I went, "Well, I call her a waitress. She's a girl. She's a waitress. I'll call the man a waiter. Yeah. If there are no waiters, so they're waitresses." Anyway, better than going garçon. Anyway, the whatever the hell, him,
the guy on the plane.
Yeah, he said, "Oh, just go and get yourselves a row, make a bed for yourselves." So I didn't need any encouragement. I went, "Can I take that?" And he goes, "Yes, go." And I jumped over there because once again, I'd moved my seat, so I had 3 seats, and some fucking person, this time a girl, had snaffled a seat. Anyway, so I raced over, thumped up my little pillows because I could get 3 because of the 3 seats. Yeah. And I was out I reckon it was more like 10 hours. I slept for about 10 hours, not 100% deep. And I bought an eye mask, a special eye mask. I put that on, and it wasn't a perfect sleep, but it was pretty bloody good considering. And so I reckon about 10 hours. Once I woke up from a 15-hour flight, I had 4.5 hours left.
And you had because you flew.
I sort of waited about 45 minutes into the flight, but it was late leaving.
You flew from
San Fran.
From Calgary to San Fran, and then had a stop over there.
6 hour layover. Oh my God!
Which is too short to leave the airport, but too long to
So I went and got a glass of wine, a salad, and another glass of wine. That all cost me over $100. Anyway.
They were big wines, but
one of them was. The second one wasn't. And it was just a salad at the end of the day. I mean, it was a good salad. To be fair, it was a very good salad. But I figured it's the airport, it's America, whatever. And I just did some work, so it was bad, but it wasn't too bad,
Yeah.
And then I got to sleep on the plane, and mind you, the plane, we were 45 minutes late with taking off because there were some technical issues. And then I woke up, watched a really shit movie, The Beekeeper. Don't watch it. I mean, I like that actor Jason
Statham.
I used to like him. He's
done some good movies, but as he's gone on, he's gotten worse and worse. Like his movies have
should stick to only Guy Ritchie movies because he's shit in everything else.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, don't watch it. On the flight from Calgary to San Fran, I watched oh God, what was it?
The Fall Guy.
The Fall Guy. That was bad. And I was like, oh, that was so bad. But the Beekeeper made The Fall Guy look good. Anyway, so so I watched that, and then
and you got into Melbourne at around
8 o'clock, and then just had to go through customs, and then we. Yeah, and I felt good.
You were fairly well rested.
I was well rested. I was fine. We went out for breakfast. I didn't go to bed until 8:39 that night, and I was fine.
And you slept. You woke up for a little bit in the middle.
Woke up for a little bit, but nothing terrible. And it was it's basically I haven't had jet lag because thank God, because then on the Friday, so I got home the Wednesday, then I had Thursday to do a little bit of work. Friday, I was off to do my hypnosis course for 3 days, 9 to 5, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, over in Dingley. So that was, and I was really worried that I was just going to sleep through the hypnosis, do my own hypnosis. But no, and I was a little skeptical of it all, but it was actually awesome. And I can really see how valuable it is. And I got hypnotized and it was pretty bloody cool. It was awesome. And I know how to do it now. And it's amazing. It's such an amazing tool.
Believe me, it's not all barking like a dog and pretending to be a chicken.
No. It's a lot.
It's a lot more helpful than that.
It's a lot more. You can think of it almost like guided visualization. If you don't want to call it hypnotism, guided visualization. Like honestly, and you just. I'm there to facilitate you to get into a deeply relaxed state, because when you're in a deeply relaxed state, visualizations work better, right? And I just guide you, because when you're that deeply relaxed, you kind of can't do it yourself.
Yeah.
And it is just amazing, like honestly amazing. And like when the guy was showing, he was doing a demonstration on me, and I'd read through the hypnotist, the script that he was going to be doing, because we had a book, and because we had to practice this one on other people. And I'd read through it and I thought, oh, yeah, no, he's going to put his hands in front of my face and say, go to sleep. And I thought, all right, I'll have to pretend to go to sleep because I know it won't work on me. And fair dinkum, his hand came up, goes, so bang. Honestly, and I was in the most deep, I wasn't asleep, but I was in the most deeply relaxed. Oh, it was just magnificent. Just the feeling. And I really thought it wasn't going to work. And I thought, I'll just pretend, so because I'll be in front of everyone. I don't want to make him look bad. This world-class hypnotist, I don't want to make, just that he failed on me. But no, and his hand, and bang. Oh, it was awesome. It was so amazing. Like really, really good. And that's what really convinced me when he did that.
Yeah.
So I do that now as part of my mindset coaching. As a qualified hypnotist, I can help people, change their fears and those sorts of things.
So if you need help in that, by all means, get in touch with Isobel on all the socials.
Yep, that's right. Anywho, gosh, we've been chatting for a while. I'm not really sure how long, but here we are back in Australia. And yes, it's cold, and it was been 31 degrees in Canada. In Calgary, it was 31 degrees the day I left. But you know what? I actually prefer the colder weather, because running's more enjoyable in the cold.
It certainly is. Yeah, I mean, we're not talking 2 degrees and
no, it's not as bad as when I left.
Yeah, but being a little bit colder, say 8 to 10 degrees, is much easier than 18 to 20 for you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it's a very special run we're going to be doing this weekend, which we shall let you know about next week. We're going to do, as unfit as we are, both of us not having done much long runs.
Our longest run recently.
Mine was 26K.
I did a 28K run.
Yeah. And so that's, and I mean, I did 30Ks in the mountains with the Revelstoke, but that was kind of, one of them was all hiking. One of them was broken up with an hour and a half standing around. So, the last day, yes, that was a run, but still, I haven't done the training that I normally do. My training has been incredibly reduced. If you go to my Strava, you will see I have not been doing much, and a lot of it was just hiking. We're going to do a 54-kilometer run this Saturday.
We're going to hit 54.
Pray for our souls.
And we've got a mixture of running through the hills, the local hills, plus then running through the suburbs to get home again the long way.
Which should be awesome fun by the end.
Yeah, so it is for a cause or a reason, not a cause.
It's not for a cause. I don't run for causes.
It is for
I run because. It's for my birthday. It's for my birthday years. 54 for 54. Right, Russell Sprite. Who knew I would live to be this old?
Looking forward to doing 80 for 80.
80 minutes. We might have to change to minutes. Because God damn, thank God, as I always say, thank God we use kilometres and not miles, because 54 miles, far right, that would be too much.
So yeah, we're doing that this weekend
Yes.
on Saturdays. So we
It's funny. I kind of like, oh God, I'm dreading it, but I kind of want to do it because
yeah.
I like to do that for my birthday. I've only really done it since I've been 50, but yeah,
Hmm.
I like to do it. I don't know why. It's a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'll be doing, like I always say, don't do roller coaster training where your training's up and down like this, but that's what my training is at the moment.
Yeah.
Canada was kind of up and down because I had a lot of time on feet, but not a lot of
Yeah.
kilometers.
So
because it
the
was
time
hiking.
on feet was actually more than what you have been doing, but your
Yeah.
kilometers was
Yeah,
less.
yeah, because it was hiking mainly. But yeah, suddenly my kilometers are going to jump. Don't judge me. And so will yours.
Mine has been quite a roller coaster because I've had some pretty poor weeks.
But you will be glad to know, everybody, that he was indulging in Domino's, Mum's Burgers,
I've given
fish
the
and
local,
chips,
given the local takeaways a real beating.
pies, sausage rolls.
So I'm back to Isobel eating again rather than Ron eating.
Oh my God! While the cat is away, the mice will play.
If Isobel had been posting, the photos of what I was eating, it would have been pretty horrendous.
Yes, but I'm pretty sure most people were aware that's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, back to discipline again now.
Yeah, healthy eating.
Healthy eating, yeah.
We're having Herbie chicken, Greek chicken with Herbie rice or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But something I'm about to start cooking.
Yes. So we will do that. No, so thank you for joining us and thank you for, putting up with our hiatus. But we're back.
We're back. So please listen.
Yep. We will be speaking next week. We were going to do the podcast that I had planned to do ages ago about nutrition. I can't even remember. It was signs that you need to work on your nutrition. Signs in your running that you need to work on your nutrition. And I am a sports nutritionist, hence why I thought we should talk about that.
Yep.
Because honestly, ultra running is a 2-3 discipline sport. Running, nutrition, and mindset. That is the 3 disciplines of ultra running. Luckily, I'm qualified in all of them.
All 3 of them.
Lucky for you, dear
Qualified
listener.
to advise.
Yes, and to help you.
Yeah.
Not just advise, but to actually work with you on those.
Yeah.
That's the 3 disciplines of ultra running. So once you are aware of that, you can work on that, because people think ultra running is just running, and it ain't.
It's not.
If you muck up nutrition, you muck up your race. If you muck up your mindset, you muck up your race. So you need all 3, the 3 pillars. All right. Well,
thank you for listening.
Thank you for joining us, and we appreciate you. And enjoy your runs, have fun, and
we will speak to you next time.
All right. Arrivederci.
Bye-bye.